seems fair to me.
Yes, he did.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it look
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. Lots to talk about this week, including the fact that the Lombardi Trophy is back in Missouri. And the Wendy Wiese clan couldn't be happier about that. Of course, she's with KTRS and joins us as our first panelist. Mr. Bill McClellan is not that happy, from what I understand from last week's show that the Chiefs won. He's with the Post-Dispatch. Ray Hartmann from the Riverfront Times and RawStory.com, and Mr. Alvin Reid, noted Cowboys fan from the St. Louis American. Well, we're going to start the show on a sad note. It was 20 years ago this week that we tragically lost our colleague and Donnybrook regular, Nan Wyatt. And Bill and Ray, you worked with her on this set all those years. And I think it's fair to say that all of us personally, but certainly the television and radio audiences in St. Louis are just greatly diminished and have been these past 20 years with her loss.
That's right. Well, she was a great friend, and as far as Donnybrook goes, I mean, she was the best of us. I mean, when she would leave KMOX and go to Jefferson City to have lunch with Catherine Hanaway or whoever on any side of the aisle, and when we talked about some issue, you just knew that Nan had been talking to the governor or to somebody else about it. She loved being Nan Wyatt. She worked hard, and she's a great friend as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And what a wonderful mother to Drake. She was just, it was, I think I still kind of numb from it. I mean, it's just,
still
she
surreal.
was such a good person, and as Bill said, she certainly was the only one of us that came equipped with facts, but she also was just a terrific person off camera as she was, and really beloved by people on camera, on radio, and on microphone.
Truly, and she was such an important part of a family. I mean, she was a sister. She was a beloved daughter, Nancy and Jim, and we still think of them and hope that they are doing well and carrying on. But she loved St. Louis. She loved her position. She, as you said, Bill, she was voracious in the way she attacked the news. And I think everybody admired her very, very much for that and for everything she brought to the table.
And if the viewers don't remember, she was murdered by her husband, and he went to prison, and he died in prison in 2021.
Well, quick happy story. When we were at the Superbowl in 1999, we were like the Saturday night for the Super Bowl, and I just had this. I said, like, hey, let's crash the Fox party. And I'm thinking, you know, like, and I was thinking that she was going to say, like, oh, come on, you know, whatever. She's like, come on, let's go.
Let's go.
And we had two other Rams fans who we met that, like, we actually got into the party. And we're there till all time, just having a great time. The next morning, she was on the air. Now, this is Super Sunday morning. I think she was on the air at 6 o'clock. Just
bright as she can be.
Bright as can be. And I'm like, who am I? Right. So,
Great story.
You're wearing sunglasses. Yeah.
Well, thanks for all those great words about Nan Wyatt. Wendy, I want to ask you, the heads of BJC and Washington University have said that they're not going to change any medical procedures. However, they are going to monitor and conduct an internal review of Washington University's Transgender Center at Children's Hospital. About this time last week, a former employee, a whistleblower by the name of Jamie Reid, came out with an explosive article that was published in the Free Press, and it said that the kids who are transitioning here in St. Louis at WashU are doing so after a cursory review by therapists, that they suffer irreversible, painful problems in many cases, that WashU is kind of pushing these kids through it. And these are allegations that are being made by this woman who used to work there, who identifies as a queer woman married to a trans man. I will say there are there's another side of the story. I talked to the mother of one youngster who went through the program and said that her now son went through 2 years of counseling, nothing was rushed, and that the transition at WashU saved the man's life because he was suicidal. So where do you fall on this? Do you think that the leaders of WashU and BJC did the right thing by saying, okay, we're not stopping the procedures?
I think they did. I think they did the only thing that they could do. But I would kind of hope for a broader investigation rather than just an internal investigation, because I thought, okay, when I heard the allegations, I thought, okay, this is just somebody who is diametrically opposed to the work being done at the program, but she doesn't just identify herself as a queer woman, she identifies herself as a progressive queer woman who is married to a trans man. And so that, for whatever reason, lends credence. A few of the other people who were quoted in the article said that they all knew her and they were shocked that she would do something. In other words, putting the onus on her. And what she was alleging, that, as you said, more of a cursory glance, and she was upset about the fact that there were disagreements between the parents of these young people that were not resolved. I understand that the National Academy of Pediatrics and the Endocrine Society, they say that this is standard practice for, you know, doing the hormone blockers and sort of pausing the growth period. But it just, I guess I'm sorry, I'm stammering. I would have been happier if they had a broader investigation, and I hope that they still have time to.
Well, I'm afraid that we'll never really get to the bottom of any of this, because no matter what WashU comes up with, we'll think, well, they might have had a little agenda. This is their program.
Right.
And the other investigations from the Missouri AG's office and Josh Hawley, no matter what they say, we'll probably say, well, that's all political.
Sure.
So I don't know if we'll ever know the truth of what was going on, or is going on.
I was just going to say, like, when you say there's two sides to every story and the truth is somewhere in the middle, I think that's this too. And also, once again, you touched on my thought, Bill, right there. I was going to say, these are health issues and family issues, and these are not political issues. And that's what it is turning into. And I think, in some sense, that's why people are paying maybe more attention to it. Because now everything has some kind of, like, you know, national or whatever angle to it that really doesn't have anything to do with what is actually going on.
Well, if she said that if you voice any concern, you are automatically labeled, and again, this is her assertion, it's yet to be proven, but she said that within the environment, within the culture of the clinic, that if you raise any concerns, you're automatically branded you're transphobic or a transphobe, and that keeps the lid on everything. So
I think this is topic A in the culture war for some folks, and I happen to agree with you. I do not think that the person should be vilified for raising this necessarily out of hand, and I think your idea of something other than the institution itself, which I respect, doing an investigation makes sense. It most clearly cannot be, you know, the political class, in this case, the Republican. It's just, I will say in advance that anything that comes from Josh Hawley or the Attorney General's office, Bailey, whatever, it just automatically has no credibility. But at the same time, I think if there were a professional association or others, I think that would be appropriate.
Thank you, Ray. Alvin, Reid, I want to ask you about another controversy, this time in Jefferson City. There were a group of activists or protesters who went on the steps of the State House yesterday or the day before, and they were protesting the fact that Kevin Windham, who's a state representative from Hillsdale, I believe, in St. Louis County, was reading a newspaper during a debate about the measure that would take some of the prosecutorial powers away from the circuit attorney and give them to the governor. And one of his colleagues objected, point of order, said he's not addressing the bill. Representative Windham continued, and then, in an almost rare move, his mic was cut off. And then someone else invoked the previous question, and all debate was cut off. And there were 3 African-American representatives from our area who wanted to speak and who didn't get a chance to do that. Do you think that the activists in this case have a point?
Oh, they actually very much do have a point. And this is the thing, is that, you know, it's a just overwhelming majority, both House and Senate down there. They have the votes to do anything they want to, which means they like to bully people. And this is a group that this time, I think the elected officials down there who are black are refusing to be bullied. Now, how do you stop this? Well, for one thing, you might want to get involved in not just the races in St. Louis. Let's find some House races all around the state and pour our resources and into that to flipping that seat. I don't care where you would have to go, how many doors you'd have to knock on. Just make yourself a presence throughout the state. Then 2, the reason that he was cut off, if he had been just singing the praises of Kim Gardner, they would have let him continue talking.
No kidding.
But they did not want to hear what he was talking about in Mississippi, because that's where those legislatures who are trying to just corral what is taught in schools, they just don't want to hear it. And that's where this whole thing is like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. Might be true, but I'm not going to listen to that from you. And that's outlandish. That's just...
Excuse me. Let's not forget that there's someone has a name who cut them off, and that's the House Majority Leader, Dean Plocher, who's from De Pere, who I had on our, when I had a show on. Dean Plocher is going to have to decide who he is, because Dean Plocher has a reputation of being a fairly moderate guy, fairly reasonable guy. I'm sure he would recoil at any thought that he was somehow racist. This was an act of racism. Now, whether I'm not suggesting he is, or anyway, this was an act of uncut, racism. I want to say, well, hold on, let me finish. And I will say this: Dean Plocher has a very difficult job trying to walk the line between the nuts in his party and what he seems to be a reasonable, moderate guy. This is unacceptable. Okay. And if that's a compromise he has to make, I have a problem.
I think Kevin Windham should have been allowed to speak.
Yep.
However, it's not the first time. It's rare, but I learned today that Deb Lavender, this happened to her some time back. Right. The other aspect of this is where there were 3 representatives who were waiting to speak. Now, I'm told that you call that previous question all the time. Previous question stops the debate. Hundreds of times there are Republicans and Democrats with their hands up, they're waiting to speak. And you've seen this too. When you watch the General Assembly, this is how it happens. So that's not unusual. I don't think those 3 reps have a beef. No. But I would say, I do think that technically speaking, even though Republicans say crazy stuff when they have the microphone, I think Windham was breaking the rules because you have to address the bill, and he was reading a newspaper. He wasn't addressing the bill at hand.
Okay, I would just argue that I think through that he was saying, seriously, you all, do you want to be this? Right. This, what we are about to vote on now, makes us this. Please.
Makes us Mississippi.
Yeah, makes us Mississippi.
Exactly.
Do you
and
want to be Mississippi? And that, I think that's fair.
I'll stick to it, and I don't like.
And by the way, I'm not throwing the racist card out there. Now, I do question some of the motives of some of the folks down there. All right, what drives them? But what I'm saying is, this is a total, like, you're declaring because we have this many votes and you say something we don't want to hear, we will just cut your mic off.
Let's move on. Let's move on because time is limited, if you don't mind. Bill, I want to ask you about broadcaster Dan McLaughlin this week came out with like a column that he shared on Twitter, basically saying that he has been suffering from depression and alcoholism, and that explains his actions when he was arrested for the 3rd time for drunk driving. Now, I think he should have added something about, hey, I should never have gotten into an automobile and nobody should do that, and please, folks, use Uber, Lyft, or a taxi cab. I would have revised it that way. He didn't go there. Would you have revised his column in any way?
Well, I would have told him not to write anything if I was giving him advice. You know, there's too much of a opportunity to minimize things. That, well, you know, actually it was medication. I was taking medication, and I hadn't eaten for 2 days, and there was a problem in my family that's affected me. I'd say this. this is a time to just lay low and get yourself together. And maybe this was part of his recovery program, somebody suggested. But I don't think he should be writing anything, trying to explain things for a while. I'd let it go.
Well, I'm with you on that because I was kind of sad when this last, the last incident, and then there was other stories, and you're kind of like, okay, all right, he's getting another chance. That's good. And this one just kind of sent it. There was just a certain amount of rationalization in it this time, and that's like, I'm kind of just get on, with your life. And I will say this too, that in the media, we treat people the same, but we treat some people the same differently. And I think that, I'm sorry, if this is just your average St. Louisan, nobody would want to hear it.
It's really difficult to hear him or to read, his statement and to see that he's talking about dealing with crippling anxiety. And I think that anybody, as an adult, we all know what anxiety is. We all understand that. And we also understand that this is a highly competitive field that he has chosen, and maybe the realities of what has happened, maybe it's finally coming down on him, and I pray for his recovery and for his peace, but he is in the infancy of his recovery process, and everything else has to wait. And I agree with Bill, that this is not the time to be engaged in the arena that may or may not have, played a role in the fact that he said he felt himself slipping after 10 years of sobriety. He's got to take care of himself and his family and his health, and then deal with the rest of this later, whether that is here or whether it is somewhere else, in my opinion.
When this came up, I said I thought he still has a future in what he does, and I do. And he's enormously talented at broadcasting, and however improbable it might seem to people now, I think he has a future, and possibly a future here. It is to essentially what you're saying is, this is not the time to be. It's going to take some amount of time. I don't know how much, and I hope he's a friend. I wish him the best, but this isn't the time. This is the time to just heal,
get better,
get better.
Get better.
And I don't think this is the time. I don't think anything that can be said now could help his cause or hurt it particularly. I just think it's not the time.
People are willing to forgive.
Right. I think they are. This is just not the moment to have.
Me included.
From what I read on Twitter and the reaction, I think most people seem to be supporting him. I want to ask you, however, about Ray Hartmann. Lyle Carsonby, he's the CEO of Emerson, which is another Fortune 500 company. I think they're like 124 on the list. And he's the second CEO of a Fortune 500 company in about 2 years to come out and warn St. Louis that it's got to amend its ways. Remember when the late Michael Nydorf did that 2 summers ago? Well, Carsonby, in an op-ed piece in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, said that St. Louis has to get its act together with regard to crime and jobs and education. Can't disagree with that, can you?
No. And in other news, water is wet.
Exactly.
Good for him that he, on one point, he said right up in the beginning of this, it wasn't that long a piece, and it wasn't particularly deep, but he said right away, we will neither ask nor accept public corporate welfare. He didn't use corporate welfare, public
subsidy,
whatever. Good for him. That's good. I like that. And also good for Emerson that they're staying. Great. If you read it, you think it's kind of a third person thing where he's observing this from afar. He is part of, has been, and Emerson has been, going back at least as far as the late Chuck Knight, who had some differences with some 4 decades ago. They've been part of this. So for them to talk in such a detached fashion, like St. Louis, I love St. Louis, but you guys have a problem. You guys have a problem.
Together.
What happened to the we in this? And I would say this: if the corporate community and Jason Hall, and Greater St. Louis, and Andy Taylor, if they want to do something about crime, all these multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations act like they're powerless down in Jeff City to get something done there and to get this, how do you want to say, not so sophisticated and certainly not so friendly legislature to let St. Louis address its own gun problem. Talk is cheap.
Yeah, talk might be cheap, but this might be the start of something, right? I mean, rather than be too critical of the CEO for saying the truth, we should say that's great, and let's start from here. And
but don't you think, Bill, it's a little unusual when the CEO of Emerson, which has sent many jobs from Missouri to Asia, right? They've got about 3 dozen plants there. We've been talking about that for 4 decades. Then he complains in an op-ed piece about the job situation in St. Louis.
Well, yeah, and you have to remember, I'm such an expert on Emerson that I predicted 3 weeks ago that they were leaving town.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know what I'm doing up here.
But you think we need to be nice to them now.
Right,
Okay,
so.
good.
But you, Ray, I don't know where you stand, because for years, the RFT, you thought that the Civic Progress guys, the CEOs of Emerson, were too involved in the community. They were
never said they were too involved.
Oh, come on.
Excuse me.
You didn't like their involvement.
Excuse me.
And now he's not involved enough.
They had too much power.
Too much power and too little regard for the importance of anybody that wasn't a rich white business guy, yes. But as far as too involved, no, they were involved in the wrong way. In this case, they've checked out and basically...
Hardly. The guy's given $200 million, Alvin, to education.
Well, I was going to say, all right, what has changed since then? Well, now we have one very, very powerful black man in David Stewart, who's right up there. But if he joined with 10 white men in charge of these multinational companies, even if their main office is not here, and they said, like, all right, the guns, maybe we can't fix that, but the education system in the St. Louis City, because they're talking about St. Louis City and North County. That's the only 2 places that they're really talking about. But, all right, we're going to throw whatever we need to into reducing class size, having security in every school, you know, just cleaning up the street that the school is on. We're going to do this in every school in the city of St. Louis, and that'll be a first step.
But, okay.
Charlie.
We could do that now with Kroenke money, but where does our money go? It goes to the convention center. Well, as soon as we get $500 million from Kroenke, the first $30 million goes to the convention center when we have an opportunity to put security in schools or the homeless in shelters.
Right.
Or why blame business when the leaders themselves
I'm not blaming
taking
them.
action?
What I'm saying is that the business people come together and say, like, all right, top 20 of us, everybody got to cough in $20 million, or you don't get to come to the golf club this year, or whatever. I don't know. But no,
I won't be there at the golf club.
Set a number, and let's us, our companies, our wealth, come together, put it together. We're not asking for any Kroenke money or anything like that.
Right.
We're just going to put.
I'm still not comfortable. I'm sorry, Bill, with the sort of coquettish nature of the. You know, we really love it here, and we've chosen to raise our families here. But if you don't get your acts together, we're going to re-examine our future.
It is kind of like they're wagging their finger. I do agree with you.
Who doesn't feel that way?
You said they're the leaders. They should be more decisive, and we're here no matter what. But we've got to act in.
Well, you know, when you talk about the corporate leaders, though, back in the days when Ray was attacking him so much, we weren't a branch office town. Right. I mean, and good for you for attacking him, right? But, you know, they
all left.
Like Ross and Purina, they were here. I mean, when the Blues looked like they might leave, it was the CEO, Hal Dean, who said, we'll keep them here. Now, you can't do that anymore because we're not headquartered.
But Emerson is here.
Ray,
wrap up your thoughts. We have one more topic.
Emerson's been a great corporate citizen in Ferguson. Let's be clear about that. Emerson is a good corporate citizen when it is, but the problem is just for these people to talk about crime, I want to see five
It's
or six.
affecting all
I
of
want to
us,
see
not just
5 of the
Emerson.
6 top CEOs down in Jefferson City on the subject of guns. If they're going to talk about crime, and let's see how these guys respond to those guys.
Let's wrap things up on a note involving Kansas City. Wendy, Kansas City, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know, 100 million people watching them do that. And, you know, this year, Springsteen's going to Kansas City. He's not going to St. Louis.
Right.
Taylor Swift is going to Kansas City, not St. Louis. The
Right.
World Cup is heading to Kansas City. And
The draft, the NFL
the NFL draft.
yeah.
Are they kicking our tail or what?
They are totally kicking our tail, but we kick their tail for generations. It's all cyclical. Like, sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. We will be the windshield again. Right now, we're the bug, but it's still home.
Hey, if you want to get to Frankfurt, you don't go to Kansas
That's
City.
right.
That is true.
Right.
St. Louis has 76 non-stops, and I believe Kansas City has 46, and none to Europe.
And
Oh,
as
there we
far
go.
as baseball is concerned, there's really no contest.
That is true.
And
That's true.
I
30 seconds,
happen,
Ray.
I'm an adopted Chiefs fan. I'm very excited that they won. I guess I should say we won.
We won.
I read the Kansas City Star every day online for what I do for work. I will say, for us to sit here and say the grass is always greener is not borne out by the daily news in Kansas City, which they have a lot of the same problems we do.
Yeah.
And good for
Okay.
Kansas City. I
That's
like
it, Ray.
Kansas City.
Thank you so much. You can write those emails or letters about Ray's comments and send them to 9PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. No ad hominem attacks, please. You can also email at donnybrook@9pbs.org and tweet at #DonnybrookSTL. At the same time, you can call our 9 line, 314-512-9094, Alvin.
9094.
And you can listen to us, as I did this past week, on your favorite podcast source, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn. That's it for this week's first half, but stay tuned because Senators Bill Eigel and Tracy McCreary will talk about Jefferson City with Bill and Ray, and that's next on Next Up. Have a good one.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.